2024, it's election year. I can't do this episode with you without asking you your predictions for this insane situation we find ourselves in for the 2024 election.
Sure. Well, I'm excited to see who the Party of Democracy picks to be their candidate after they rig their own primary elections to ensure
is there
that
a democratic process, and they skipped their primaries, right?
Yeah, they skipped the Party of Democracy skipped all of those pesky democratic processes when it came to selecting their candidate. I am cautiously optimistic. I'm going to be voting for Trump Vance. Like that's
of course.
But I think it would be a huge mistake for anybody that does plan to do that to assume that this is in the bag. I will also say this. If you're someone that believes the 2020 election was stolen, I understand that. Mm. If you're someone that says, therefore, I'm not going to vote because what's the point? Screw you, man.
Yeah, get out and vote.
Screw you. Like, oh my gosh, that just pisses me off like nobody's business.
I've heard people say this, though, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
I have to, and I want to look at them and be like, you know what? You are worse than the other side. Yeah. You are absolutely frigging worse than the other side, because at least they're out there fighting. I might not like what they're doing or how they're doing it, but the fact that you're going to say, what's the point? Well, what else do you plan to do about it then? Yeah. Other than bitch on Facebook, apologize my language, other than complain on Facebook, what do you plan to do? Yeah. And the answer is nothing, because you don't want to win. You want to have an air of moral superiority. You want to stand on the ash heap of my country and say, told you so, without doing a damn thing to make sure it doesn't happen. So, sorry.
Yeah, no.
That just pisses me off. Like, I get it. I get how frustrated you are. Believe me, I have to sit for 60 days in the General Assembly session every other year, 45 during odd years, and listen to colleagues on the other side of the aisle tell me I'm a racist, white supremacist, Nazi bigot because I don't want them to take your guns, right? And I do it. And then I get up and I respond and I fight back and I go through that entire process because I believe that we've got to fight for it, and I'll fight with anything I can. The other thing I see is I'll see some people like, Nick, we're past that. It's just time to go to the shooting war. Like, you ever been to one, man?
Yeah.
You want your kids to see that?
Yeah. We don't want that here.
I don't want that here. I don't want that for my country. I don't want to hurt the people I disagree with politically.
Yeah.
I would like to convince them. And if I can't convince them, I'm happy to leave them alone as long as they're willing to do the same. But one thing I will not be is a subject. Mm-hmm. I'm not a subject. I'm a citizen. And so I have a process. I have a method to work for. Am I skeptical of how it's been run? Absolutely. But I will exhaust it. And what that means is I will get at it. I will fight for the candidates that I want to win. And I will donate, and I will volunteer, and I will vote, and I will do all of those things. I will do that at the federal level. I will do that at the state level. I will do that at the local level. Mm. I will participate in the process. Should we ever come to a day where that process is legitimately no longer useful, well then, yeah, I'm not left with many options at that point because I'm not going to be a subject. But at this point, I do think we have a really good shot of winning this one this year.
Yeah, I do believe there's going to be cheating, right? But I believe they would have to cheat so much that it would be unhideable.
I agree.
And I just don't know that they could do that.
I think the cheating this year would be so bad that it would break them.
Yeah.
I went from someone that said, look, because here's the other argument I think I will make, and I think people need to hear me on this because they're immediately going to be like, no, if you don't believe that 2020 was stolen, then you're a shill or you're a hack or you're a cuck or whatever else they're calling us these days.
Right.
The left has effective control, maybe not legal control, but effective control of almost every single culturally shaping institution in this country. The schools, the universities, 70% of the news media, probably 80 to 90% of Hollywood. Do you think they have to cheat to win? Or do you think that they fought for so many culturally shaping institutions that they're at a point right now where people are actually voting it because they actually believe this nonsense? Mm-hmm. Now, here's my question. Are you sending your kid into that? Are you letting your kid having unfettered access to that by what they watch, what they listen to through their smartphone? If the answer is yes, if you're like, I'm not going to vote because they just steal it, but you let your kid be raised by it, you don't get to come back and tell me that cheating is the only way they can win, right? You got to fight for all of those institutions. And on the institutions you can't fight for, set up competing ones, right? If you can't win over your local school district, get your kid out and set something up to compete. right? Do the hard work. And I think that's the problem with some of the conservative movement is they think they should be able to solve it with a vote. Ladies and gentlemen, our side of this debate has never believed that because we've never believed that our government is the fundamental thing which defines the United States. We believe that the fundamental thing that has defined the United States are the ideas and the people. Getting to live your life and pursue happiness the way you want to, provided you don't infringe on the rights of others to do the same. But if you now want to cede all of that and say, well, it's all just about who's in the White House, they already won, man. They already won if you honestly believe that. Who's in the White House matters, but it shouldn't be the only thing that matters.
Right. That's I've been everywhere I've been speaking. I'm saying this vote, absolutely vote, but real change is going to start in your home.
Oh yeah,
it's going to start in your home at your dinner table. That's where
I had somebody. It was Lila Rose actually from Live Action, huge person within the pro-life movement, and she was asking about like what can people do. And I said, look, like you got to vote, you got to participate, you got to do these other things. I said, but our country is in the shape it's in because families are in the shape they're in.
Yeah.
I said, I will tell you this much. There are things that I can look back on. What is it about your 40s and your kids getting older? It starts making you a whiny, cryy little, like, I don't know why. I used to always be a tough guy, but certain stuff gets me choked up now. I have done certain things within my life that the secular world can look on and say, that was a success. That was something meriting either accolades or admiration.
Mm-hmm.
I am proud of being a paratrooper. I'm proud of being a Green Beret. I'm proud of being a representative in the House of Delegates, the longest continuously serving body in the Western Hemisphere. I'm proud that I represent James Madison's district in Virginia. I'm proud that our shows on YouTube and the things we do on Instagram have grown exponentially over the last couple of years. But the greatest impact I will have on this country and on my community will be found in whether or not I did what God commanded me to do as his child, as a husband to my wife, and as a father to my children. That will be my legacy, which far outlives anybody caring about whether or not I was a Green Beret or whether or not I was an elected representative. That will be the legacy. And I will watch people pour 80, 90% of the effort that they have into fights which may be important, but can nowhere compare to the fight going on within their own house. Like if you are not putting the active measure that you need to be into what that marriage represents and the promise you made to her, right? And in raising your children in the way that they should go, then everything else you did, man, is going to pale in comparison. And that should be, I don't mean this to be like condemnation. I mean it to be encouraging. One of the greatest moments for me is when I was in the midst of all of these political battles and just day in, day out, hours upon hours upon hours, and then recognizing ultimately that the biggest fight I had was spending some time with my kids and going in there and doing that because I enjoy it. I love my kids. I love the fact that my wife and I have raised little humans that I now want to be friends with now that they're adults. I love the fact that they are it's not mom and dad's faith, it's theirs. It's their relationship with Christ. I love the fact that they know what they believe and they know what they want to do and they seek out personal responsibility. I love that they do that. And I look back on it, I'm like, man, long after everybody's forgotten all the other stuff, I'm going to get to sit here with my grandchildren, hopefully one day my great-grandchildren. I'm going to get to see this carry on. And if you put your priorities there, not to ignore everything else, but put your priorities there, it's not just going to be, you're almost going to feel selfish on how great it is that you get to have that experience and you get to enjoy it so much. But at the same time, you will be doing the things necessary to save the country that you love.
Yeah. Man, I had a closing question, but you answered it there. My question was, what should people be doing? And you just answered it perfectly. And I think nothing else needs to be said, man.